Hi, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to this evening's regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting on June 21st, 2023. Before we begin, I'd like to share with the audience that if you need Spanish translation services, please see Lupita, who is standing at the podium.
A la reunión de la mesa directiva programada para el 21 de junio de 2023. Quería anunciar que tenemos servicios de interpretación disponibles. Si necesita interpretación al español, por favor, búsquenme a mí o a mi colega Roxanne. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Lupita. Appreciate it. My pleasure. I'd like to call the meeting to order and establish a quorum.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
I'd like to notify the audience this evening that the open session will be audio taped, streamed, and recorded. And may I please receive a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
And Jason, if you could please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Agenda item E. This is ACT CSCA comments, Board of Education, Acting Superintendent, routine status updates regarding any activities, meetings, conferences, and any recent developments. Tonight, we do not have any updates from ACT or CSCA, so I'll skip right through to any updates from the Board of Education, and I'll start with you, Jason.
After all the fun stuff we had with graduation and only 2 weeks in between, I did not really have time to attend any other things with the personal items I had to take care of.
Great. Thank you. Anne-Marie?
Congratulations on your personal things you had to take care of. He got married. I went to a community human services meetings, the finance committee meeting. We had a special budget meeting and a regular meeting. Community human services is opening up a lot of new services, especially for teens in our area. So it's looking really good for and optimistic for mental health services and drug and alcohol services. I'm just really so enthusiastic about this group. The other thing that I went to was summer school at Tular, and they actually had Captain Cooper students all the way over in Tular, and it was really nice to see. And the teachers there came back and said it was so nice to see all the kids from Cooper. According to Lee, was just saying that they were coming back and asking for more homework, and that they were really all engaged. The kids had chalk drawings all over the playground. It was amazing to see. So if anybody had a chance to go out and see it, otherwise I think Kashawa is going to be having their summer school or their services in the last couple of weeks in July. But that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Carl?
By the way, that was a great wedding. I was there. So, I'm going to go ahead and, in the interest of time, just go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thanks. In the interest of time, I will go ahead and pass it off to Sharon, but also note that I'm looking forward to heading out to summer school in the next week or so.
Excellent. Oops, can you all hear me? All right, I too have had a lot going on in the last couple of weeks, trying to just get ready for 2 board meetings in 1 month, which is not a typical routine here in Carmel Unified, so preparing lots of different items. But in addition, as you've heard, all of our summer programs for qualifying students began, all on different days, all at different times. But we have fully running our extended school year program for those students who qualify through their IEP process. We have elementary students all the way through 6th grade and participating in an academics and enrichment component program, and Lee Camber's here, so I'll just do a quick shout out to her for being my partner in organizing all of this and for being the person who's actually there every day as our administrator on site, supporting all the teachers and students and families. She's done a great job, and we're halfway through our second week of that particular program. We also have a high school credit recovery program that Lee pulled together, and we have our one of our high school administrators supervising that program with a bunch of our teachers over there as well. So not only is Lee out there supporting all of those different programs, there's I will say our own staff, which is always preferred because these are our own teachers who have chosen to work in the summer, and it just helps with developing bonds and relationships moving into the next school year. And so it's really pretty awesome that our students have that opportunity to be supported by our own staff in the way that they are. And they get to do fun things too. It's not just all academics and enrichment and intervention. It's all mixed in. So they create these joyful learning experiences, and we have a partnership with one of our community partners, the YMCA, who is supporting us with the after-school care program that goes till, 4:35 o'clock in the evening, depending on where you are, if you're in Big Sur or here. We have to have different hours, 8-hour days versus 9-hour days. But anyway, we have programs happening throughout the summer. We'll have the week of July 4th off, and then the team will be back at it with programming in Kashawa and some in Big Sur again. So we're excited and happy to provide these opportunities for our students. And then just finally, this is the final board meeting of this academic year, which means I made it a full year. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for the warm welcome, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with really dedicated and committed staff and community. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Sharon. Agenda item F, this is public comment on non-agendized open session and closed session items. This is where members of the public may address the board regarding items on the open session agenda or topics within the board's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda at this time. So if you'd like to make a public comment this evening, please go ahead and take a number from the ticket taker or ticket dispenser in the back. And we'll go ahead and start with public comment number 42 this evening. Oh.
There's no more tickets?
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a trick, folks.
All right.
We want to hear from you.
Great. So number 42. Thank you.
Turn it on.
Turn it on or hello? Oh,
There we
yes. Hi, I'm Bobby Pfeiffer, and I'm here today to introduce my children who are also here to the process of, one is hiding over there, to the process of, democracy, really. This is their first board meeting, and they know that I've been coming to those, and now they can see in person what this is all about, and I talk to them about right and wrong, and I try to teach them, how to be good people. But most of the time, they just watch what I do, and they can tell that I can tell them I'm the best mom in the world. But if I don't act like it, they will know. And this is it's difficult to put in terms that mean anything. However, when it comes to the school system and their experience in school, it's very important for them to go to a school where they can feel safe and they can learn. And that means that they should be exposed to different cultures and different viewpoints and variety of people and variety of opinions. And when it comes to LGBTQ students and Black culture, history, or all those controversial topics that we have been discussing, I feel like they would know if I'm trying to hide something from them or to limit their knowledge or to push some certain understanding onto them. And I feel like it's very important for them to, get out there and see for themselves how working together is what actually makes this community great. And that the most important thing is that the dangers that I can't protect them from have nothing to do with the rainbow or somebody's pronouns or a book about what happened 100 years ago. It has to do with things that I don't even want to say out loud here. So we stand here in support with the LGBTQ community, students, parents, our fellow community members of color who are in any way disadvantaged, and we will continue to show up and show our support. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment, and welcome to the meeting. Number 43, please.
Hi, I'm Matt. Thought I was going to be further down on the list. Jason, congratulations. Thinking about weddings, I think about my own wedding and our theme. We had a hand-carved sign that hung over our tent, said "Celebrate Love." And that kind of carries the day for kind of my ethos and credo in life. And I want to bring that message here and kind of encourage the board in considering policy and in considering the resolutions that are before you and in adopting what it means to celebrate people, to celebrate diversity and equity and inclusion, to celebrate all people, to celebrate tolerance and what that means in the positive. I didn't really know what I wanted to say today, but that there is an opportunity for celebration. We're faced with this moment where there is this unnecessary distinction, where we're really not that different, where we find our voices shaking about what flag we stand behind and what we believe and what we're trying to explain to our kids. And I'm like, wow, I have more than a decade left in this district with kids, with little kids in third and preschool. And man, I want to see a district that lifts up everyone. A parent in the past, a couple of meetings ago, mentioned would a conservative student group get the support of the board? And I would say, man, I sure hope so. I really do. I hope that when we talk about celebration, we talk about celebrating all of it, that is part of the educational experience, and that when we lift up all kids, it lifts up the experience of what kids and the portrait of a graduate that we can create, that we have the opportunity to create. And so I think this is a really unique opportunity for this board to stand on the right side of history and in this moment. And I look forward to seeing the board take the right steps. And I stand with the Be Yourself Club. I stand with any other club that is in question, and also I want to bring in the students who might not be able to stand up, the students who don't know or who are in the closet, who are afraid, who don't have a voice, who don't know that they can stand behind me or that they need someone to stand behind them. Those students also, I'm speaking for them as well. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Number 44, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Goings. I'm with the local NAACP. I'm also with NCBI and Monterey Peninsula Pride. Obviously, I'm in favor of the resolution, and I thank the board for considering it, and I urge you to pass it. I just want to say a few words about why is your duty to do so and why I think it's so important. I appreciate everyone who's speaking from the heart. Because I'm representing organizations, I wrote something down. The fact is, whether we like it or not, about 7% of people identify somewhere on the LGBT spectrum. All schools in the state of California have an affirmative responsibility to improve academic outcomes for all students, regardless of their identities, their cultures, or their beliefs. Stigma and ostracization contribute to low self-esteem, academic interference, and increased rates of suicide and addictive behaviors. Building a supportive environment for LGBTQ plus students helps them do better in school and saves lives. Because many LGBT people, especially minors, are afraid to reveal or explore their identities in general audiences, or for some at home in their families, it is imperative that they be provided with an environment in which they can do so safely. To be clear, this means an environment in which they will not be discouraged, encouraged, coerced, or restricted from exploring their gender and sexual orientations identities. There is a substantial minority of straight and cisgender folk who are really supremacists, whose mission is to drive LGBT people back into the closet and out of the social square. And that is precisely why LGBT folk are a protected class in California. Diversity is not just about color and language. It includes diversity of opinion as expressed through religion and philosophy and politics. And so for those of you who don't think queer people should exist, that is your prerogative. It is not, however, your prerogative to interfere with our existence or the institutions, programs, clubs, and symbols meant to support us. At some point, adults who are in the majority in terms of race, religion, language, gender expression, sexual orientation have to accept that not everything is about you. If you see a rainbow flag during Pride Month, you have every right to resent it, but you have no right to try and have it removed because it wasn't up there for you in the first place. I applaud the school board for considering this resolution. You have my sympathy for any abuse you endure on behalf of this community, and I implore that you remember after people have expressed their opinion that you still have a duty to protect and provide LGBT safety for LGBT students. I have flyers with me for the Monterey Peninsula Pride Parade and a program panel discussion I'll be moderating, protecting LGBT students and adults in schools and universities. I hope you'll attend. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Number 45, please.
Hi. Oh, is it on? Yes, it doesn't. Okay. Good evening. I'd like to voice some concerns regarding all the attention put on the LGBTQ community. Unfortunately, this community has been hijacked, in my belief, by people with a political agenda. When I say this, I am not referring to parents, students, and teachers. I'm referring to politicians and all the people higher up in charge of pushing this narrative down the chain so that we end up where we are tonight. But how genuine are these people? Do these people really care about kids like my son? We need to think about all these policies, how all these policies will affect kids like him. Of course, I support kindness, equality, and inclusion, but I support that for all, not just those that are in these targeted groups. I find it offensive that people like our school principals, teachers, and some in HR and even on the board feel like it's their place to make sure my son knows that in their eyes, he is a minority and needs their protection. He is not a minority. He is a human being who should not be looked at and he should be looked at as just that. He is no different. He is has the same opportunities as most of the other children at CHS. He does not need to be reminded every day that he has LGBTQ allies when he's at school. If we want to be inclusive to all, then stop these groups that you categorize our children in. I support having a Be Yourself club for kids that want a place to connect, just like I would support a religious club or any other club. But we do not need to plaster our schools all over the place with LGBTQ posters. It is ridiculous and too much. The bottom line is our school should have zero tolerance for bullying. It's that simple. My son is uncomfortable with how much attention is directed towards kids like him. Do his feelings matter? I imagine that they don't, because as inclusive as you all say you want to be, you are only inclusive to those that are supporting this agenda. It's really unfortunate that you, as our leaders, can't see what this is leading to. We are creating an environment where those that didn't care what someone's sexuality was are now going to get frustrated with being told all day long that these kids need to be protected from those that are not part of the LGBTQ community. It's eye-opening when a relative of mine, who has been openly gay for over 20 years, told me a few weeks ago that he now feels homophobic and wants nothing to do with this current LGBTQ community. This is coming from a guy who proudly went to gay pride events and is proud to be gay. We are creating a narrative of bad guys versus victims. My son is not a victim, and I refuse to raise him to think that because of his sexuality, which by the way should be a private matter and no one else's business, that he is owed something. He is expected to do his best in school, be a good person, have a job, take on responsibilities as he grows into adulthood, treat people with kindness, do his chores, etc. None of those expectations are because of his sexuality. I expect the same from all of my children. If you stand for equality, why continue to point out that my son is different and needs different treatment than other kids? Instead of staying neutral, you are once again caving to the pressure of this movement that is causing kids like my son that is using kids like my son for political gain. You can promote kindness, inclusion, and respect without pushing the LGBTQ signs and rainbow signs. We should be promoting kindness and inclusion regardless of color, sex, religious views, body types, looks, financial status, and so on. At the end of the day, we all have a story. Some have better outcomes than others, but we are all living in this beautiful community that we are blessed to call home. We should love and respect each other and work together to create a place that is safe and happy for all. This is not the answer. Stop encouraging these kids to see color and sex and encourage our children to see each other as humans with different views, stories, and opinions, and teach them to love and respect one another for who they are as people and not based off their race or sexuality. Thank you. And I'm also looking forward to hearing from Sharon at some point so we can talk about some of that stuff. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Number 46, please.
Dawn Hatch, math teacher. I'm going to show you some math. 25% of U.S. high school students. On April 28, 2023, CDC study, 1 in 4 high school students identify as LGBTQ. February 2022, different Gallup poll, a lot more people. 2.6% of boomers identify as LGBTQ. Gen X, 4.2%. Millennials, 10.8%. Notice the trend. 20.8% of Gen Z identify as LGBTQ. My son's in there. Here comes some math. There's a rumor that students have more LGBTQ members at CHS than normal. It's been heard on campus. That is a null hypothesis, that the proportion should be 20%. Alternate hypothesis, according to some, that it is greater than 20% significantly. Is CHS population of students significantly more identifiable in the LGBTQ community than one would expect? This is a normal curve. 20%'s in the middle. This is what significantly different would be. That would be 176 students at Carmel High School identifying as LGBTQ out of 800. There are 28 students in the club. They participate in varying ways. 28 that have joined the club, willing to put themselves out there. That's 3.5%. That's not significantly more than 20%. Matter of fact, it's not even on the curve. You know what this says? That 0% likelihood we should have a group that small at Carmel High because they don't feel welcome. We need the club. They need permission to be welcomed on our campus. No, if you don't want to be a member, you don't have to. We're not going to call you out for being a member and not being willing to parade yourself. Of course not. But math doesn't care about politics. It really doesn't. It's a math thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 47, please.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Frenzel, and I am a Carmel resident. I live behind Safeway. And I currently serve as the executive director of the Diversity Center up in Santa Cruz. That's an LGBTQ plus community center. And so I've just thrown out all my statistics because I don't need to share that anymore. You get it. So I actually just want to paint a little color on this conversation. Because what we do is mostly go into schools and work with the QSA clubs and or whatever form the LGBTQ club takes. I wanted to paint some color around the pandemic and what happened. The entire county ended up coming together from COE to behavioral health to community organizations centering around us because our kids were in extreme crisis. LGBTQ plus kids, far more than kids that do not have such identity. And we all were like, what to do? And I'll fast forward it because it was so extreme because there weren't resources and because there was no specialization really present for these kids, I ended up going out and raising money to hire a clinician. And we're now in the middle of building a mental health clinic that is mostly in service to youth. And we don't do that, and we don't get funding for that because it's a thought that this might be an issue. It's because it's a serious issue. And Casey Roddenbush just got, $7.8 million for this county to work on LGBTQ plus safety in schools. You don't get $7.8 million because there's no issue. You get it because there's an issue. So I just wanted to put this color and the reality of what we deal with every week with kids needing mental health support from our clinicians. This is a real deal, and it's not just Santa Cruz County. We're coming down here to Monterey as well, which, as my home, I support and want that to happen. And the least that we can do is support this club and support the needs of the students, because they aren't just the same needs as everyone else. They're those plus needing to be reassured that they are in safe space. So I thank you for taking this conversation forward and for making my home, for me and my wife, safe as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 48, please.
Hello, my name's Jennifer Deonto Kemmerly. My daughter, proudly, is Sophia Kemmerly. She's the vice president of the Be Yourself Club. I've spoken a few times. I want to applaud the board and thank the audience for this resolution. I know we don't all see eye to eye. I really don't care. I want to talk about why we need the club. We need the club because the kids don't feel like they can be themselves. We also need to foster civic mindedness. And there's discrimination in the world, and there's discrimination in this community. There is discrimination in the school. So clubs like the Be Yourself Club, Days of Recognition, Days of Pride, celebrate, point out differences, and spark conversation. What kind of kids do you want? Kids with their heads in the sand? Kids in a caramel bubble? I don't. I want kids that are smart, informed, and living in reality. We don't see eye to eye, understand why, understand all sides and perspectives, talk about it, argue about it, be yourself, be a community, be strong. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 49, please. Number 50. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board with a public comment? Okay. I thank you all for taking the time to address the board this evening with your heartfelt comments and statements. We do appreciate hearing from you. Thank you. And with that, we'll go to agenda item 2. This is our consent calendar. This is where the board bundles a number of items and acts upon them together in one motion through the use of a consent calendar. The consent agenda items are routine items deemed to be non-controversial, for which board discussion is not anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. There will be no discussion of these items prior to the vote unless any members of the Board of Education request that specific items be removed for discussion. So with that, I'd like to take a motion.
I move to accept this consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Agenda item 3, these are our action, discussion, and information items for this evening. So we'll start with agenda item 3A. This is resolution number 23-14, recognizing and celebrating LGBTQ plus students, staff, and community members. And I'll pass it off to Sharon to introduce the resolution, and then I'll introduce it to the board members.
Thank you. So I'll keep my comments brief, but this item is a resolution documenting the district's responsibility to ensure that all students who reside within its boundaries, regardless of gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation can safely access a free public education. You may have noted or may want to note that many of our neighboring school districts have already approved and implemented resolutions supporting LGBTQ youth and communities in their districts. And we look forward to joining those neighboring districts of ours and through our commitment to creating a welcoming and safe environment where our district supports all of our students, all of our staff, and all of our community members.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. So I'd like to introduce the resolution to our community with all of our board members participating. And I am sorry to say that Seabury is not with us this evening. But with that said, I thought it would be a nice idea if we portioned out the resolution so each board member could read a piece of it. So we will go ahead and start that now. So Jason, if you want to start, and then we'll go down the line and each of us will read a section.
Okay, I'll just start at the whereases because I'm not sure that we need to read the whole top section. But whereas, according to the Library of Congress, the month of June is a time to celebrate our dynamic lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning community, raise awareness of the quality services, and foster a dialogue to promote healthy, safe, and prosperous school climates and communities for all. And whereas June has historically become a symbolic month in America in which the LGBTQ plus persons and allies come together in various celebrations of pride to support the community's right to live their lives out loud. And whereas California state law addresses discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and bullying towards LGBTQ plus youth, there have been numerous studies indicating the inequities experienced by the LGBTQ plus community, including poverty, homelessness, school harassment, physical assault, domestic violence, hate crimes, mental health issues, and substance abuse concerns. And whereas the Fair Education Act of 2012 calls for positive inclusion of the contributions of LGBTQ plus Americans in social studies curriculum.
And whereas Carmel Unified School District is committed to supporting dignity, equity, and visibility for all people in the community, and whereas it is the right of every child, regardless of gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation, to access a free public K-12 education, and the district welcomes and supports all students. Whereas the district has a responsibility to ensure that all students who reside within its boundaries, regardless of gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, can safely access a free public K-12 education. Whereas bullying in schools is a serious matter that impacts student health and safety, the district aims to develop engaged students, healthy families, safe schools, strong communities, and
whereas the district recognizes that there are employees and educators of the highest caliber who are gay, lesbian, and transgender, and that all employees are valued members of the school community regardless of their gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation. Whereas the district recognizes the families in our community come in many different forms, the district values all of our families and students, caregivers, regardless of gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation. Whereas Board Policy 0410 and Board Policy 5145.3 prohibit discriminations in its programs and activities based on gender or sexual orientation, among other characteristics, and where it is imperative that young people in our community, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, expression, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their community.
Now, therefore be it resolved that together the Carmel Unified School District Board of Education and Carmel Unified School District proclaims June as LGBTQ Month to inspire equity, create alliances, celebrate diversity, and establish safe environments in our schools and community. Acknowledges the need for all students, staff, and community members to respect and honor our diverse community and commits to building a culture of inclusivity and equity, not only during LGBTQ plus Pride Month, but during the other 11 months of the year as well. I'd like to take a motion to adopt resolution number 23-14, the resolution to recognize and celebrate LGBTQ plus students, staff, and community members.
So moved.
And seconded.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Absolutely.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Most definitely yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Motion passed.
You're on.
Great, thank you. All right. So with that, I'll move on to agenda item 3B, and this is our student presentation this evening from the Be Yourself Club. And to introduce the agenda item, I'd like to pass it over to Sharon.
Thank you so much. So this is our first presentation. You heard a few board meetings ago that student clubs will become part of our monthly board meetings. So I'm happy to have our very first club presentation this evening. So this evening we have the founding president of the Be Yourself Club at Carmel High School, Cassie Fromm, here to share a presentation about the purpose, goals, and activities of the Be Yourself Club with the board and broader community. Though Cassie graduated from CHS just a few weeks ago, she's here tonight to share from a student perspective the ways in which the club supports a marginalized student group on campus while also dispelling any misconceptions about the club. It is not easy to speak publicly, especially about topics that some find controversial. So I very much thank Cassie for her courage to speak up here this evening and for her leadership to help create a safe space on campus for students.
Hines and board and the audience. I'm Cassie Fromm. As Ms. Ofek said, I'm a 2023 alumna and the founding president of the Be Yourself Club. When I joined the Be Yourself Club, it was 2020. It was the middle of COVID, and I became president by virtue of being the oldest of the 3 people who showed up. And over the course of that year, it grew from a weekly small social gathering to something really important. It grew in both size and purpose until by the end of that year, we'd accomplished some amazing things, including creating the first gender-neutral bathroom at the Carmel High School, which we thought was a really amazing accomplishment. Since then, it's further evolved into a weekly gathering place and safe space, and also a group which promotes interests and support for our community, for the LGBTQ plus community, and to provide education to counteract misinformation and harmful stereotypes and beliefs within our school. We also host activities now, including game nights and movie nights, and we participate in school events. We also reach out to Carmel Middle School's own Be Yourself Club and help them uplift and support their own club mission. We also provide informational materials, including the ones provided to the board tonight to accompany this presentation, to share with students and staff what we stand for and what we'd like to see our school turn into. So why does our club matter? Why does this all carry so much significance for us? Why am I here? Well, we know that unchecked harassment and prejudice in schools harms everyone, not just the students it targets. And we know that LGBTQ plus students in unsupportive environments have measurably poorer mental health and higher suicide rates. We thank the board tonight for their resolution. It's a really important demonstration of their leadership and commitment to the district, and we're really excited about the step you guys have taken. So thank you. So here, for the next few slides, I would like to provide some context for this presentation. According to the Trevor Project, an organization which focuses on crisis intervention and suicide prevention for LGBTQ plus youth, 73% of LGBTQ plus teens in the US reported discrimination in their high schools in 2022. Discrimination is frequently underreported, especially when it's verbal discrimination. so these numbers very well might be low. These unsafe school climates can have disastrous consequences, including, in the next slide, very high suicide rates. According to UCLA Health, in 2022, 20% of overall teenagers seriously considered suicide, and 9% attempted suicide. Meanwhile, according to the same aforementioned Trevor Project survey, that number is significantly higher with the LGBTQ+ community, showed in red, as 50% of teenagers 13 through 17 seriously considered suicide, and 18% attempted it in the last year. I'd like to invite you to sit with these numbers. Last year, in 2022, 18% of children aged 13 through 17 in our communities attempted suicide because of a lack of support. These are not just numbers, they're people. They're people with families, and it's so important to consider them as that and not just statistics. So we also know that that communities and schools which prioritize support and which create a tangibly embracing environment for these students have lower suicide rates and higher rates of mental health. So how do we create these environments which keep our students safe, which embrace them and support them for who they are? Well, we've narrowed it down to 5 ways. 5 ways to be an ally, both on an individual scale and as a district, to help keep our kids safe. First, by respecting our peers and students, by speaking up when we hear discriminatory sentiments, by respecting privacy, by displaying support, and by supporting our LGBTQ+ students whenever possible. So first, respect. It seems simple, and it is, but it's also vitally important to honor pronouns, names, and identities preferred by students. In fact, California's Ed Code requires teachers to respect preferred pronouns and names of students. Some people, all the same, don't care to share, don't feel comfortable sharing their specific identity, and we should respect their right to do that too. Second, speaking up. By being an upstander instead of a bystander, by participating or by intervening actively as allies when we hear hateful and prejudiced language is a critical part of creating a supportive environment. Again, California's Ed Code requires districts to intervene whenever they witness an act of discrimination or harassment. Third, privacy. This could be a tricky one. The Ed Code is kind of difficult to navigate here for a lot of staff. It requires, like I said, and it's important to respect, students' preferred names and pronouns. At the same time, it asks teachers not to out students, not to force them out of the closet when they haven't given consent to. And that can be a matter of physical safety. And I understand that that can be a very difficult thing to navigate. And it's something that I think we all need a little bit more training, a little bit more education on how to navigate. Fourth, display. In accordance with school policy, of course, having these displays, these tangible forms, indicators of support in our schools can be really important and can be a great step in establishing these safe spaces. On an individual level, things like signs, pins, clothing, or other visual cues can be very helpful. And in a school-focused context, teachers can put signs or stickers in their windows proclaiming their rooms as safe spaces. Now, for this, it's definitely true that there may be teachers who don't feel inclined to put these signs on their walls, and that is fine. We can't assume that those teachers aren't supportive, aren't safe spaces. At the same time, in the social climate that we have right now, it's impossible and unsafe for us to assume that people who don't display themselves as supportive are safe for us to talk to. We can't make risky moves like that. We have to be careful with who we talk to. So if teachers are comfortable with it, that's why it's so important to have these signs. Finally, support. By joining or endorsing our GSAs, or gay straight alliances, or gender and sexuality alliances, like the Be Yourself Club, by providing support from our community building experiences, such as field trips or inter-district events, such as student summits, which often need board approval, and even providing safe spaces in the district by helping us work to prevent intolerance and by creating opportunities like the one I'm so glad to have tonight for LGBTQ plus students to lead. In the immortal words of Barbara Giddings, regarded as the mother of the LGBTQ plus civil rights movement, equality means more than passing laws. The struggle is really won in the hearts and minds of the community where it really counts. And we thank the board tonight for helping us do that. Thank you so much.
Cassie, don't leave us yet. Could you please stay? I want to make sure that the board can thank you and give you any comments or ask any questions. So don't go yet. And would you mind introducing who you have here with you and what part they play in the Be Yourself Club, just so everybody knows who you all are, please?
Of course. I have with me Mix Benny, Ms. Frandazzo, and Mr. Crawford, our wonderful staff administrators and pillars of support for our community here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you for that presentation. If you were nervous, it definitely did not show. So you crushed it.
Thank you.
I'll start with Jason.
Hi, Cassie. We've met in the neighborhood before.
We have. Hello.
Yes. I wanted to thank you for your really, really well thought out presentation. And one thing I want to clarify is just a person that doesn't display this always. There are a lot of us that are safe and are here for you that don't fly the flag, don't wear the pin, but we care about you. You're still people. You're our friends, your neighbors, sisters, brothers, parents. Try it out. There's a lot of us that care about you.
Thank
and
you.
again, thank you for your courage.
Thanks, Jason. Anne Marie?
I just had one question that I felt I knew the answer to, but I just wanted to make sure. For the incoming freshmen, and I'm sure that that you're going to have some kind of a club fair, something right at the very beginning of school, and I just wanted to just sort of publicly put that out there, that the incoming freshmen, because I had somebody approach me after the middle school graduation who wanted to know about safe spaces up at the high school. So I'm putting that one out there for you.
I think Sharon can answer that.
Yeah, so the high schools and the middle schools actually have club fairs with all the clubs who have staff sponsors, and students can petition to have a club sponsorship and have a club, and then they have a club fair. I believe the high school club fair has a date set of the second Friday of the school year for the coming school year. So I can't remember the exact date. It might be August 18th, maybe. Whatever that second Friday is, though. That's the club fair.
Thank you. Anything else, Anne Marie?
No, I just wanted
Okay.
to, if you don't mind, I just wanted to reiterate how while it's very, very important in high school and college to get a group that you can identify with, it's also equally important in middle school and high school to have that group, because you have a whole bunch of, you have 3 different schools coming together in middle school, and you have that middle school transitioning up to high school, which is a big, scary event. So thank you very much for not only your club, but for all the other clubs that are out there that are providing support. And I'm glad that you were the first club, and I'm looking forward to the other presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl?
Yes. This does bring out the old principal in Carl. And, all of the clubs at Carmel High School, each and every one of them is entitled to respect and protection by not just the high school, but the Carmel Unified School District. That needs to be said. And honestly, at this point, I don't think we're there. But I can guarantee you one thing, we will be. And I met with Benny and Phil, delightful people. They've got great advisors, and I know there's more of them associated with this. But it's important to know that it's on the radar that we have to get a better level of understanding, shall we call it, at the high school.
Great. Thank you. I just want to thank you again for that presentation. We really appreciate it. And I know, as Carl and Anne Marie mentioned, the Board of Education is looking forward to hearing from all the different clubs at the high school and having them present sort of what their mission and their goal and their vision is. So thank you for kicking this off for us, and thank you to everybody who attended this evening, especially since it's your summer vacation. So thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome. Sharon, do you have any closing comments?
No, I just want to say thank you.
All right. Okay, we are going to change gears a bit here and move on to agenda item 3C. This is the 2022-2023 fiscal year California Dashboard Local Indicators Self-Evaluation Report approval. And so I'll pass it over to Sharon for that.
Thank you. I'm just going to wait a second for this to presentation to be open, but this item is a brief summary of the local indicators, which are part of the overall California school dashboard, meaning we are required annually to do a self-evaluation on 5 of the 8 indicators required by the state that are also then reported on the California State Dashboard, which is released mid-year every year. Can you pull up the other thing, the slides? Thanks. That's what it looks like when we submit it, in case you're wondering. But we have a slide deck that makes it look a little bit more simple than that. But I'll run through, there it is, perfect. I will run through all of these different pieces. The California Dashboard, while we're waiting for that, is basically an online tool that shows student data across a district and how the schools are performing based on that data in all 8 of the indicators. They, like I said, are measured annually, and 5 of the 8 are for district self-assessment. And that's what that slide basically says. And so on the left side are all 8 indicators: basic services, state standards, parent engagement, student achievement, student engagement, school climate, access to a broad course of study, and what they call other outcomes, which really are college and career indicators. And college and career indicators are measured through a variety of different things. There was no report out or no dashboard for this particular indicator the last couple of years because of the pandemic, and so the data is not necessarily available. We do expect it to return next year, but prior to the pandemic, it was measured through things like pathway completion or passing an AP test at a certain level, or any combination of any number of different types of things, meeting the seal of biliteracy being one of them. So that's what that indicator is. The indicators on the right-hand side that are in that brighter green are the ones we had to self-report on. So I will walk us through each of those 5 right now. Priority 1, which is called basic conditions, that is from something called a FIT report, which is part of every school's accountability report card, the SARCs. You've probably heard of those, and they get approved by the board, usually on the consent calendar because they're annual, but our MOT department helps to complete those FIT reports by doing an assessment of each of our campuses for a specific set of criteria. And then the second priority is implementation of state academic standards, meaning do we have standards aligned instructional materials available for our teachers to utilize when they teach courses in our schools, and we are fully implemented in that arena. We don't have books that are 40 and 50 years old being utilized on our campus. They're standards aligned, which is nice. Priorities, that's not the case everywhere, so I'm very happy about that. Priority 7 is access to a broad course of study, and that's defined slightly differently, but by the California Ed Code. Those are areas in elementary or K-8, I would say. Elementary and middle school are basically the courses we have, plus all of the special programming that we have. We have music and Spanish and a whole, garden. We are so lucky here in Carmel to have so many different opportunities starting very early on in elementary school, and that continues all the way through high school. So that would be considered a broad course of study, and we self-reported as very high in that area because we do have a lot available to us. Building relationships in priority 3 is an area where we felt we made some improvement in the past year, but certainly by no means are we all the way up at the very top of the like 1 to 5 rubric. But building relationships, we did have as a full implementation. And then building relationships for student outcomes, we had improvement there. I think our initial development for the professional learning in this area, as you might have heard this evening, that we have a full implementation and a whole bunch of other elements related to it. So that particular element is a split reporting. And then seeking input for decision making. We have initial development for collaboration around planning, outreach, and engagement activities, and full implementation across the remaining elements of that category. So we're doing better, and we're improving in that priority. And then finally, priority 6, which is school climate. The California Healthy Kids Survey is a every other year survey, and then in the alternating years, we administer the Stanford Survey of Adolescent School Experiences. So this year was a California Healthy Kids Survey year. We had a very low participation rate, but that being said, we also moved the administration of that from the fall to the spring, and so that could be part of it, but also we made it an active consent instead of passive consent. We did a whole bunch of information, but that is, in general, in every single category that we measure in our LCAP related to the California Healthy Kids Survey, with the exception of one grade level in one item, all of our outcomes were improved from the previous administration. So that's good. And obviously there's going to be ongoing analysis of that data because it has a lot more in it that is not defined in our LCAP as metrics that we identified, but things that we can still learn from and areas for us to see if we need to improve in. And then all I have there is from the 21-22 administration from the Stanford Survey of Adolescent School Experiences. So we're doing pretty well in all of these different areas, and that's what this is all about, those metrics. And so that's the presentation, and we just have to approve this aspect of our LCAP. This goes with our LCAP.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. Does the board have any questions or comments for Sharon's presentation?
I have just one question, and I'm sorry I didn't ask this ahead of time. With the results from the Healthy Kids Survey, is there somewhere where we can access that data?
The California Healthy Kids Survey is available online to the public, and you just have to, you can just Google it and it'll be there. Okay. I don't know if we administered in the spring, but I do believe it's up. I think our issue is they won't publish it for the public if you don't have a certain number of students, because you don't want to have students be identifiable. Okay. So I believe we might be able to, our data might be available this particular year only in the aggregate and not disaggregated. Okay. So just be mindful that this year will look different than previous administrations because of the participation rate.
Thank you.
If there aren't any more questions or comments for Sharon, could I please get a motion to approve?
So moved. The dashboard indicator self-evaluation report.
And I'll second that.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Thank you. For agenda item D, this is our 2023-2024 fiscal year update to the 2021 through 2024 LCAP plan. So if you remember, board members, last meeting, we had a hearing and we had public comment and we had a presentation. So now that has happened, I will pass it over to Sharon for the approval this evening of the 2023-2024 fiscal year update to the LCAP plan.
Thank you. So the difference between this final version and the draft version that you saw during the hearing is that like I said, the California Healthy Kids data has been returned and been able to be updated and analyzed. And then we also, if you recall, we had professional learning, a professional learning day in January. And we had to cancel that day, so we waited for our Summer Institute to be completed and incorporated that data into our third goal for review as well. So the data's been updated, all the missing pieces have been included now, and that allowed us to do a much more thorough analysis of the data in order to determine what the celebrations were and what the areas for need or improvement and growth were, and basically give us an assessment of where we are in terms of achieving the goals we had set out to achieve in this 3-year period of time. So we have one more year on this plan. And then we get to, next year we get to start the process to make a whole new plan. But I would say we're making progress. No particular area had substantive differences. But in goal 1, I believe it was action 3, which was about a math team to review instructional materials and whatnot. That action was discontinued because we did have that team. They did do their work in the first 2 years of reviewing and selecting a program, piloting it, and then the board adopted it and we implemented it this year. So that for year 3 has been discontinued. And then we had really stellar input and outcomes from our community liaison, which the board did ask for a presentation next year, which we'll definitely share or pull together. But that item is now a contributing to the. You can have items connected to your LCAP that are either contributing or not contributing financially to the total dollar amount that's required. And so that one has been, all of those services meet the requirements and it is now contributing. And then the final change was also based on feedback around the need for some prevention, outreach and education related to bullying, harassment, sexual misconduct, Title IX, all those kinds of elements. So we added an action into, and this was in the previous presentation, but it's in the final one. We've added that action into the LCAP as a position that we're going to flesh out and determine what kind of a position that should be and look to hire to help improve the mental health data that we have.
Great. Thank you so much, Sharon. Does the board have any questions or comments for Sharon about the LCAP, the final version?
I just have one quick question, and I didn't catch it before. The Summer Institute, since it was moved from January to the Summer Institute, how was the attendance?
So the January Professional Learning Day was canceled due to weather, and those topics were incorporated into staff meetings and minimum days, other dates in the year. Okay. The Summer Institute still stayed the Summer Institute, but we incorporated the satisfaction rates in with our data. So it was a huge participation rate, I would say. I would say somewhere around 70 to 75 participants in each day. Okay. And with, I think, a 97% satisfaction rate. Beautiful. So pretty stellar.
Thank you.
May I please get a motion to approve the 2023-2024 fiscal year update to the 2021 through 2024 LCAP plan as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines?
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini?
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi?
Yes.
All right. Agenda item 3E. I'd like to welcome Diana Gonzalez to the podium. The board will remember last meeting, we also had a hearing and a presentation on this agenda item as well. So agenda item 3E is the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget adoption and statement of excess reserves.
Hi, everybody. As you know, you received the presentation last board meeting, and we are seeking your approval of the budget for next year.
Great. Thank you. May I please receive a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 general operating budget and 2023-2024 Carmel Unified School District Statement of Reasons for Excess Reserves.
So moved.
And second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Agenda item 3F. Thanks for staying up there, Diana.
Of course.
Resolution number 23-13. This is the Education Protection Act account, EPA.
EPA, yes. So every year, California school boards are required to adopt a spending plan for EPA funds. This year, as you can see up on the screen, CUSD will be spending those funds every year. We spend the funds on teachers' salaries and benefits. Any questions?
No?
Okay.
May I please receive, Jason, you've been so quiet. So let's hear from you. Can I please get a motion to approve Resolution 23-13 EPA account?
I'm not fast enough with the button is what's been happening. So, and then I don't want to interrupt. I make a motion to approve resolution number 23-13, the Education Protection Act account.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Diana.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Agenda item 4. These are our closed session agenda items, so I'll go ahead and identify them now. Before adjourning to closed session, I'll identify the closed session items as agenda item 4A, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, Division 2, 1 case. 4B, conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code 54957.6, negotiator Craig Chavez, regarding ACT, CSCA, and non-represented groups. 4C, public employment pursuant to Government Code 54957, Subdivision B1, Carmel High School Assistant Principals. 4D, public employee discipline dismissal release pursuant to Government Code 54957, Subdivision B1. 4E, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54957, Superintendent. I'll go ahead and end the open session of this meeting, and we'll reconvene after close. Thank you so much for everybody attending tonight. We appreciate hearing from all of you. Good evening. Coming out of closed session, the Board of Education took no reportable actions. Thank you. Have a good evening.